Good morning. Welcome back to Think Fast, Write Fast. Today, I'm going to give you another Nano Tip. And today we're going to talk about how to submit your manuscript to a mainstream publisher. Most of the time I talk about self-publishing, but if you want to submit to a standard mainstream publisher, a publishing company whose name you probably would recognize already, there is a process. And one of the first things you need is you need a vocabulary. You never call it your book, you call it a manuscript. So if you're looking for where to submit, you're looking for manuscript submissions. First of all, you need to know which publishers are looking for you. You start with your genre, but you go way beyond fiction versus nonfiction. You need to know specifically what genre your writing falls into. The most effective way to find a publisher is to browse through a book called Writer's Market that is published by Writer's Digest, Writer's Market Deluxe Edition 2018. It is a little pricey. List price is $49.99. Yes, that is actually the list price. You can pretty much count on finding it in your local library. It's great to have your own copy just because it has so much information in it. It is 896 pages describing what publishers are out there, what they're looking for, how to submit your manuscript. You'll notice that the first thing they actually list is literary agents. There's a reason for that, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. What you need to look for is publishers that not only publish what you want to write, but who are looking for what you are writing. So just because a publisher is known for publishing science fiction, that is still a very broad genre. So you need to know what they are looking for. You also have to know how to submit, and that information is generally found on each publisher's website. So once you identify publishers to whom you want to submit your manuscript, you look for the writer's guidelines or submission or manuscript. It kind of varies from one publisher to another. And you do need to know the process. Let's pop over to the HarperCollins website. They have two different imprints. They have Avon Impulse and Harper Legend. And you need to pay attention to what these websites tell you. Trust me, you are not special enough to ignore the guidelines and do what you want. If you actually want to get published, you need to know what the guidelines say. In this case, with the exception of our Avon Impulse and Harper Legend imprints, HarperCollins does not accept unsolicited submissions. That means you have to first submit to an agent. They have specific agents they will then accept manuscripts from. Unsolicited manuscripts, proposals, or even query letters that we receive will not be returned, and HarperCollins is not responsible for any materials submitted. In other words, first of all, don't send something unsolicited, and absolutely do not give them your one and only copy because they're not going to return it. We recommend that you consult your local bookstore or library for sources that can direct you in locating an appropriate agent and or publisher. They're referring to Writer's Market. That's where the bulk of this information is going to be found. Absolutely always pay attention to what the publisher is telling you. Penguin is a division of Random House, does not accept solicited submissions, proposals, manuscripts, or even queries via email at this time. And some places now will only accept submissions by email. A free source that you might want to look at is provided by Poets and Writers, and this is just pw.org. And these smaller presses in particular will generally have a reading period. Some will charge a reading fee. If you're planning to go mainstream, you need to have a budget. And sometimes these are just a couple of bucks. Who knows the limit? Most will now accept electronic submissions. We'll tell you if they accept simultaneous submissions, which means if you wanted to submit two memoirs. The small presses will often accept unsolicited submissions, but you still want to go directly to their website to know how to contact them. They have said do not send submissions through the mail if they are unsolicited. This is the Alternative Book Press. They do have submission guidelines for both fiction and nonfiction. I've talked a little bit before about you need things like your bio. Before you even submit a query, you need to have your bio. Here we see what is becoming more and more common, and that is that publishers want electronic communication. They don't want piles and piles of paper. At times there will be multiple people reading your submission. So if they have it digitally, it's very easy for them to scatter it among whoever's going to read it. You need to know what your title is going to be, up to a 400-word synopsis. We're going to talk a lot about this. So they want a sample chapter or an excerpt from a chapter, but they want 5 pages or less. Again, they don't want paper. You should have this in a text file, a digital file, and you just copy an excerpt that you think is the best part of your manuscript and you paste it in here. So you do have to know the basic skill of copy and paste. There is a reading fee for every time you submit something, just for a query. This isn't even submitting the manuscript. This is just to see if they might be interested or not. This one is relatively inexpensive. It's only $4. They do expect you to have a PayPal account. End of story. They're not going to accept anything else. No point in arguing, because there are plenty of other people who will submit, who do have a PayPal account, who are willing to follow the rules. Do keep in mind that many publishers will only accept a digital manuscript now. Don't print your book and then send it to a book publisher. If it's printed, it's already published. They're not going to publish something that's already been published. You would have to make drastic revisions before any publisher would consider publishing something that you have already copyrighted, published, disseminated to anyone else. They want exclusivity. They want the original, untouched, and they're not going to accept a book that you've already printed out in any form. Little Red Tree, this is a really good site to look at to get an idea of what is expected when you submit a manuscript. They are fiction and creative nonfiction. And again, if you don't know these genres, if you don't know what creative nonfiction is, you need to do a little research, because you need to be able to recognize who is going to publish what you're writing. They do accept unsolicited full-length manuscripts throughout the year. Doesn't even need to be in English. There is a $20 reading fee for every submission. And here we specifically says that your manuscript should be previously unpublished. If it is either as an ebook that other people can buy or are free, even on, like on Smashwords, that is not something they're going to be interested in. If you have printed it on paper in any format, that means it has been published. They're not going to be interested. They want it double-spaced. They want 12-point Times New Roman or Arial with 1-inch margins on all 4 sides. That includes top, bottom, right, left. A contents page, a pagination would be helpful. In other words, put page numbers on your pages. You can submit illustrations and photographs. Please include a covering letter and a brief synopsis. Always include that. They want to know if you've published anything in the past. They will want a photo of you and biographical details. Again, got to have that bio. If you are mailing your submission, they want a CD version. They still want digital. Again, they're going to be able to then disperse it to a reading panel. If you're going to submit digitally, which you're supposed to, and you do have photos that need to be included, they even specify that they must be 300 dpi. Well, it says preferred. Trust me, it's probably not going to happen if it's less than that. You really need to follow these instructions. First page has to have the title, contact information, and you need to let them know immediately your manuscript has been accepted by another publisher, because it saves them time. They don't want to devote time to your book and suddenly discover that some of the publishing company has already accepted it and is working on getting it published. This is a site, this is another small press, this is River Poets Journal, and they have themes for every year. Contact them and find out what the theme is. They don't publish it, so you need to find out what that is, and there is an email address. They're very digital. They want a very specific, they say in Word format, Times New Roman or Arial, 12-point. Now they want their works single-spaced. You have to know those specifications for every single publisher, or they are not going to accept your submission. I have read statistics that publishers will often receive maybe 3,000 to 5,000 submissions a year. They don't have time to bother with someone who does not follow the instructions. I also tell you the response time. And 3 to 6 months That's a reasonable time. Don't think that you're going to submit it today and by next week it'll be published. It does not happen that way. So that's just a smattering of places that you might want to look at if you're looking to do mainstream publishing and if you're not interested in going the self-publishing route. So do your research. NaNoWriMo doesn't begin until November 1st, so you should be spending that time building a list of publishers that you would like to submit to. You need to know what kind of submissions they're accepting. Do they accept a manuscript directly, or are you going to have to get an agent? If you do, you could start looking for an agent now. Do they accept paper? More and more are not accepting paper. Don't waste your time printing something. They do not want paper. You need to know if there is a reading fee, and if so, how much will it be? And start setting up your budget because it's going to be eaten up quickly. And then last of all, you need to know what the submission deadlines are. If you miss this year's, you may have to wait until next year. Never try to bend the rules. It's not going to work. There are too many competitors who are more than willing to learn the rules and follow them, and those are the people who get published. For assignment for NaNoWriMo before November 1st, that's something to keep you thinking about your genre and where you might market your work. And see you next time on Think Fast, Write Fast.